very good and exceptional lecture, and I've been having a point in mind for so long, and I think by you having been here tonight, you might clarify my doubts, and not only me, but the audience. Your Excellency, there's a point about communism. United States, if there are countries, it is said your country is the country number one which hates communism, maybe A is dogma or B is an ideology. Now, Your Excellency, I would like to know clearly, what's the main point, what's the specific point, why your country hates communism? Is it because it's dogma or it's an ideology? Thank you.
Our basic concern about communism is that it's an ideology which preaches that, in fact, and puts into effect that the state exists not for the benefit of the individual, but the individual exists for the state. That it's a ideology that is not interested in the human being as such, but only as the human being can be used in order to build up the state. We are opposed to this. We're not opposed to the economic system of the Communist Party or the communist ideology, but it's the fact of what effect that it has on the individual and the individual member of a society. And the fact that an individual is in complete domination and the control of the state can do whatever it wishes with an individual, that it's totalitarianism, that it's a dictatorship where one individual or group of individuals can determine and judge the future of the members of its society. It can place, by the whim of one figure, it can place a person in jail, it can send them off to a camp, it can make a determination and judgment of the guilt or innocence of an individual. It does not permit freedom within the statement of the question that was just asked. I don't think there's any question that we do not always fulfill the ideals that we state, and we do not always handle ourselves on some of these matters as well as we might. There are also just the basic problems of living with other countries and trying to find peaceful solutions to some of these problems. You spoke about South Africa. I think that it's in the interest of all of us, of the African population of South Africa, the white population of South Africa, and the rest of the population of South Africa, if we could find a peaceful solution and answer to the problems of South Africa. The United States government will continue to work toward those ends. Now, the alternatives to that are very harsh indeed, and South Africa is an independent country. It would, the kinds of steps that would really be productive would be extreme indeed. The United States would, as well as your own country and other countries around the world, would obviously like to avoid that. So there is an effort to try to find some peaceful solutions and answers. As far as Mozambique is concerned, I think that we've made it clear how we feel about the Portuguese operation of Mozambique and Angola. I think that we made it quite clear that we believe that they should have independence. I believe it very strongly myself, and that the people themselves should make that determination and that judgment. Now, what steps we then take is, again, more difficult from a practical point of view in the world as it is today. Your own country and the country's surrounding neighbors.
Our country, in fact, is the biggest, and the enormous trading is continued between your country and South Africa. Could you explain why? Despite the fact that you tell us that you support the African countries and their resolutions, yet your country cannot and does not stop trading with South Africa, which would be...
I say that as far as the trade is concerned with South Africa, it's not the United States government. The trade is not run by the United States government. It's private companies and corporations within the United States who conduct the trade that you've described. Secondly, having visited South Africa, I had some major concern about some of these matters before I went there. I still have some concern about it. I am not yet convinced, if I may say so, that ending this economic relationship with South Africa would be helpful to the cause that you've described. In the first place, so many of those people who are now being employed and brought into the cities and towns where there is a close association with white people would lose their jobs and would become unemployed if the economy of South Africa was doing less well. I think everybody that's been into South Africa and all of those who are concerned about the future of South Africa would agree that the greatest force toward integration, greatest force toward raising the standard of living of the African and the non-white is the economic boom that's taking place in South Africa. The first, if that economic...
To assisting African countries to get rid of colonial domination and also settle their economic imbalances here and there. But I'm given to understand that before His Excellency President Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown,
on the shoulders of the United Nations. As the United States is the only nation among other nations in the world.
Nations, but
are known to have spoken against the policy of the Johnson administration in Vietnam. Would you be prepared to accept the stand of many liberals in the United States against the present policy and include this stand in your plan, as a plank in your platform, to seek the Democratic nomination in 1968?
Number two, the second part of it, because I'm not running for anything in 1968. I'm going to run for the Senate in 1970, and that's my next election. As far as the situation in Vietnam is concerned, I've made my position clear in the United States in connection with that, and I've outlined in broad general policies what the United States government is trying to do in Vietnam here before this audience. In the past, I have been opposed because of the aggressive policies of China, their actions in India and elsewhere around the world to the admission of Communist China to the United Nations. As President Johnson has indicated and Vice President Humphrey has indicated, there are going to be some changes in the outlook and the policy of the United States. I would support those changes of the United States government, and personally I would support the admission of Communist China to the United Nations if she can meet the requirements required by that body. Those of you who have asked questions on the caliber of the questions and on the matters that you have raised, they're all difficult problems. I think we're never going to be able to find easy solutions to any of these problems, whether it's our internal problems in our own country, whether it's, as I mentioned earlier, still some discrimination within the United States, still some poverty, still those who do not have as full life as they should have. We have to do better in the United States. There has to be more done here in Tanzania, as all of you know. It's still not satisfactory that people live on an income of less than $75 a year. You've got to do that. You've got to do what needs to be done in your own country to help all of your people and in your relationship to your surrounding neighbors so that you can work together to help all of mankind. That's your responsibility. The United States has its responsibility. What I want to emphasize is that as I've traveled through Latin America, as I've traveled through Asia, and I traveled through South Africa, now here in Tanzania, that there's a basic goodwill that those, as I see, particularly amongst our young people, that people want to work together, that they might find different answers or solutions to the problems that are affecting all of mankind, but basically, they want the same thing. They want the same thing for their families, they want the same thing for their children and education, they want to find a decent job so that they can work for a living, and they want to have a home so that they can keep their family. All of these